Hi, this is Brad Linder with Liliputing, and this is what looks like a Windows 8.1 notebook, and it kind of is, but it's also a Windows 8.1 tablet. It's a relatively inexpensive device, which I think is a pretty great buy at $349 and up. That's for a model with 32 gigs of storage. I'd recommend spending a little bit extra and getting the 64 gig model because that version has about 30 gigs of free space as opposed to 15 gigs of free space. Both have an Intel Atom Bay Trail processor. It's a quad-core Atom Z3740 chip. And while Atom processors sort of have a bad name as underpowered netbook chips from the last couple of years, it offers long battery life and pretty decent performance. I found that I was able to use this as my primary work machine a number of times over the last couple of weeks as I have been testing this system. So you can see we've got the full Windows 7 style desktop operating system in Windows 8.1 and access to tablet-friendly apps as well. So as I mentioned, I think that this is a nice device that combines portability and performance and battery life. It gets around 8 hours of battery life in laptop mode. Asus says you should be able to get up to 11 hours of battery life. I think that's pushing it a little bit, but I've also been pushing the machine pretty hard, so you might be able to get more than 8 depending on how you use it. There are some limitations, so I don't want to say that this is necessarily a great device for everybody. So let's take a look at some of the quirks before we really get into what you can do. It's got a 10-inch tablet keyboard, right? So that's not quite a full-size keyboard. It's the keys are going to be a little small. I find after using it for a while, other keyboards feel big. I have no problem really touch typing here, but it does take a little getting used to, and if you have really large hands, you might not love it. I particularly don't love the touchpad, which is really small and difficult to use, I think. I won't quite go so far as to call it unusable, but it's not a lot of fun, so I often either just reach up and touch the screen or plug in a USB mouse. There's a USB 3.0 port here on the side of the tablet dock. It's a full-size port, and that's pretty much it for the ports on the keyboard dock itself. You won't find an extra battery in here, you won't find an extra hard drive, and you won't find anything else. There's micro USB, micro HDMI, micro SD card slot here on the side, and a headset jack, and that's what you get on the tablet. So if you wanted Ethernet, you're not going to get it. If you wanted a full-size SD card slot, you're not going to get it. Now, you could use this USB port to plug in a docking station that might give you some of those things, but out of the box, what you see is what you get. Now, I have been able to plug in an external display using the HDMI port, external keyboard and mouse using the USB port, and basically just use this like a desktop computer, because I think it is powerful enough to get away with some of those things. So let's take a look at some of what you can do here. For $349, not only do you get full Windows 8.1 and the ability to run desktop and tablet-style applications, you also get a fully licensed copy of Office 2013 Home and Student. That means you get Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, and they load quickly, they're pretty responsive. I'm not a huge Office user, but I wanted to just sort of show you what they look like here. And you can move them and resize them and so forth. And if you really hate Office, you could always install LibreOffice, OpenOffice, or something else, or use Google Docs. You can use, I have the Google Chrome browser as my default here, and so you can sort of use this like a Chromebook if you wanted to. And in terms of web browsing, I had no problems accessing any sites, playing full screen video. That's probably not the best video to choose. Let's grab another one here. And I regularly found myself using this computer for up to 8 hours as my primary work machine with a dozen browser tabs open while editing photos and listening to music, and it didn't feel sluggish in the least. So I've got the audio turned off, but the speakers are relatively loud. In addition to YouTube, I had no problems with Hulu. If anything, video looks even smoother, I think, on Hulu. And this is handy because there are not official YouTube or Hulu apps. So if you had a Windows RT tablet, for instance, you wouldn't be able to run these things. Now, one thing that is a little bit sort of tricky about using the touchscreen is a 1366 by 768 pixel display, and your finger is actually going to be bigger than some of the elements on the screen. You can adjust some Windows DPI type settings so that you don't run the risk of doing what I'm about to show you, but if you look real close, you can see how small sort of the minimize, maximize, and close buttons are. And so you're running a little bit of a risk every time you try to hit, say, minimize or maximize, that you might accidentally hit the close button and just close the app altogether. Or you might just not hit anything and tap and aimlessly at the screen like you just saw me do. Now, full screen style applications like Netflix, which there is a official app for, are really designed more for use with your fingers, and a lot of these are applications that are available for download from the Windows Store. The Chrome web browser, which I was just using, actually has a Windows 8 full screen style user interface as well. I don't know why this isn't loading. Here we go. So video playback looks pretty great. Viewing angles are pretty good. And you can dismiss applications by swiping from the top. I've been reading books on the Kindle application in tablet mode, and it's pretty comfortable. It's a little heavier than, say, a 7-inch tablet, which is my preference for reading ebooks, but it does get the job done. And you can see Windows 8 works in landscape or portrait modes. Played some games. And seems pretty responsive with those as well. Now, in terms of desktop-style games that are more graphically intense, perhaps, it'll handle older games like World of Warcraft or Diablo, Torchlight. It's not necessarily going to be the best machine to use for really high-end games, but it works pretty well with most games that you could find in the Windows 8 store. As I'm talking and trying to do things at the same time, it can be a little bit problematic. Okay, so here we go. We've got pinball running, and it looks pretty good. And I like these games that are sort of resolution and screen orientation independent as well, because you can even rotate the screen while you're playing. So that's a look at some of the tablet apps, desktop apps, some of the good things and some of the bad things about using each on this tablet. But overall, if you just wanted to use it as a desktop-style machine, you could do that. You can just go ahead and run your normal Windows laptop-style applications. If you just wanted to use it as a tablet, you could do that, although I think you're probably better off getting a machine that's really meant just for tablet use if you do that. But what really sort of makes it special is the fact that you can sort of do both. So for instance, I'm not doing a great job with this right now, but you should be able to, do side-by-side applications, resize the applications, and so forth. So overall, again, I've been pretty impressed with the performance, the battery life, the portability, and another nice thing about portability is it actually charges much like a tablet with just a little USB charger that adds almost nothing. So while you get 8 hours of battery life and might not need to take the charger with you anywhere, it's nice to know that you can. So this is the Asus Transformerbook T100, which is a Windows 8 machine with a Bay Trail processor. It's capable of running Windows out of the box. You can also install Ubuntu on it, although it's a little early days as of early November 2013 in terms of getting Ubuntu fully functional. And it's a surprisingly versatile machine that I've been playing with enough over the last few weeks that I'm a little reluctant to send it back to Asus. This is Brad Linder with Liliputing. You can find more details at liliputing.com.